Hello, everybody out there, and welcome to our session on how to interview for a job or for an exchange program. We're very excited to have everybody here today, all of our viewers and people that might view this after the session. We get lots and lots of interviews here at the embassy, and we're happy to do a session in talking about how to do it a little bit better. So I'm just going to jump right in and introduce the people that we've got here today. Sitting next to me is my colleague, Amy Eagleburger, who is almost brand new in Tajikistan. She's a political and economic officer here in the embassy. And I should just tell everybody up front, we're all allowed to form our own teams with people that we can spend time with without masks. Amy and I are on the same team, so that's why we're not wearing masks today. Otherwise, we definitely would, and all of you should as well. And then I'd also like to introduce Paily Eapen, who is somewhere off camera. There's Paily. Paily's been in Tajikistan for I think about a year and a half now, and he's our human resources officer at Post. So as the human resources officer, Paily sees lots of interviews. And we're really excited to have all of the knowledge from Amy and Paily here today. My name is Alex Noppe. I'm the cultural attaché for the embassy, and one of the things I'm responsible for is all of our many exchange programs that the embassy runs. So without anything else, I would love to jump in. I know Amy's got a couple things to talk about, just to start off with how to be successful in an interview. So I'm going to turn it over to Amy.
Okay, great. Thanks, Alex. Hello to everyone out there. Thanks for joining us today for this. So the topic I want to cover is how to sell yourself in an interview. I think one thing that's important to think about when you go to an interview is essentially you're a product with specific skills and competitive advantages that you're essentially trying to sell to the interviewer. One thing that's really important in selling yourself in an interview is having a really clear idea of what makes you unique from other candidates and what specific skills that you have that are relevant to the program that you're applying for. One thing that I think is also important in sharing these skills is you don't want to just say, I'm really organized and I'm really interested in this topic area, or I have great leadership skills. You want to have examples that back up the idea that you're creative or that you're interested in this subject area. So if you're applying for a grant or an exchange program that's related to environmental conservation, it's probably relevant to say that you're a part of an organization in your community that's dedicated to environmental conservation, or this was a particular area of research for you at your university, or a personal area of research. Providing really specific examples of the skills that you want to highlight are really going to help you stick out in the interviewer's mind, and are also going to make it easier for the interviewer to believe that you actually have those skills. Another thing about selling yourself is that in interviews, you really don't want to be too modest about your achievements. You need to really talk yourself up, and you need to talk about the awards that you've been given. You need to talk about the ways that you've stood out. I think this is especially critical in the American context. Americans were born in capitalism. We're marketing ourselves all the time. We are not going to hold back to tell an interviewer that we are the best thing ever at our university, and we're going to back it up with examples. So make sure that you're not modest. If you're the top of your class, if you have won awards, you need to be mentioning that, and you need to be mentioning that up front. I also wanted to provide kind of a little example of how you can turn something that seems a little modest into something that's a little more impactful. When I worked in Russia, one of my colleagues has since immigrated to the United States. He's been on the job market in the US, wasn't getting the callbacks that he expected. And so he asked me if I would read his resume. And when I looked at his resume, it really wasn't showcasing how brilliant he was and how crucial he was to our mission at the US Embassy. So one quick example that I pulled up here is on his resume. He said that he was involved in writing a wide range of reports and overviews related to the trade and investment environment in Russia, in particular covering Russia's accession to the WTO. So what I had him change it to was produced original analysis on Russia's trade and investment environment, as well as progress towards joining the World Trade Organization, a key US foreign policy priority. So in my version, it made it clear that he was the one producing the analysis, that it was original, it just wasn't something that he got from the internet, and also that he was working on a key key US foreign policy priority at the time. And so that really shows the impact. Another thing he said, he provided advice analysis to senior embassy officers, including the ambassador. What he failed to mention is the reason why he provided this analysis was because he was the lead economic specialist. So I told him, I said, you need to mention that you were the most senior person in this role, and that's why you're asked to provide the analysis. And the analysis that you provided did change US economic policy towards Russia. So you're showing the impact of your work. And I think that's some great examples of how you want to make sure you're getting full credit for everything that you've done. I think I'll stop right there for that topic.
Great, thanks, Amy. And I think what we'll do now is we'll turn it over to Paily for a couple minutes, who also is going to speak on something that should be really helpful for all of you. Paily?
I'm going to kind of build off of what Amy just presented in regards to selling yourself. The aspect I want to specifically talk about is how to be concise. So yes, you want to sell yourself. Yes, you want to describe all the great things you are doing, you have done. And what's key about that is the interviewer does not know about that. They might have read your resume, but you really want to showcase that, just like Amy said. But you also want to be concise. You want to keep things short and to the point. And so any answer that you give, you probably don't want to talk for any more than 2 to 3 minutes. And so the first thing I'll say about that is the most important thing that you can do in preparing for an interview is to practice. Practice your answers. You can look online and kind of look up some generic interview questions and have those kind of answers ready. Think about those processes, because once you start answering one question, you can normally adjust your answers or pivot to another item as need be, and then build that answer, even if it's not a question that you've prepared for. One of the methods that I really encourage others to consider when practicing your answers, thinking about those accomplishments that you want to talk up, is using the STAR method to structure your interview questions, or interview answers. And so you want to use the STAR method whenever there's a question about, like, tell me about a time, what do you do when questions, have you ever done something question, give me an example question, describe a situation question. And so the STAR method, it's STAR. So S stands for situation. You want to set the scene. You want to give the necessary details about whatever it is that you're about to share about. Like, you were in this type of job. This is the goal of our team. This is what we were focused on. This is what my responsibilities were. And then the next item is task, or T is for task. You want to describe your specific responsibility. This is what I had to do. This is what I was responsible for. This is the result I was charged to deliver. Then A stands for action, which is you want to explain your steps. You want to go into detail in regards to then I did this. First I assessed the situation. Then I took account of what resources my team had. Then I developed a plan using those resources to solve the problem, whatever that looks like. And then the key item at the end is the R, result. You want to share, because of my actions doing this, I reduced costs by 50%. Because of this action, this person changes their mind, whatever that case may be. And all of that allows you to give a really focused answer. You don't want to just kind of ramble on. You want to give the specific example. You want to show how you did it, but you want to then kind of be done talking. So with that, I'll hand it off back to Alex.
Thanks, Paily. That's really great information. And now we're actually going to have a chance to put this into action. So what we're going to do today, we've got a really exciting program for you, because we actually have some people that are going to interview live for a fake exchange program. So we made up an exchange program here that essentially looks like a year of graduate study at a university in the United States, followed by a summer internship at a company or at a government agency. Sounds like a really great exchange program, right? Let me just say, it's not real. Unfortunately, we just made it up for this interview, but we do have lots of great exchange programs that are equally as good, from our Fulbright programs to our SUSI programs to our Humphrey program to the Flex program, and all of those you have to interview for. So what we're doing today, even though it's for a fake program, it's still going to be the same type of thing that you would do for all of the many real exchange programs that we actually do have. So we're going to bring on some great guests, and I'd like to introduce you to Nilufar, who's going to be our first guest to interview for us. And let's see, I need to.
Hello.
There we go. Now you can see Nilufar. How's it going, Nilufar?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, all right.
Great. So we're going to put Nilufar on the spot for the next 10 or 15 minutes, and we're going to have an interview with her. And then when her interview is done, we're going to each kind of go over some of the things that she did really well and some of the things that she can work on for the next time she interviews. So everybody that's watching, this is your opportunity to learn from Nilufar. So Nilufar, are you ready?
Yeah, I am ready.
Great. Actually, before we start, I just want to say one quick thing to anybody watching. If you have any questions for the three of us, for Amy or Paily or myself, go ahead and type them into Facebook, and we will have some time at the end of the program to answer a couple questions. So you can start asking them now, and we'll get to them at the end. Okay, now you're ready, Nilufar. All right, so you know the exchange program that you're applying for, the fake exchange program.
Yeah, I know that.
All right, then I'm going to turn it over to Paily for the first question.
Sure.
Hi, Nilufar. Thank you for your interest in this exchange program. So we just have a few questions that we'd like to hear your answers to. So I'd like to start off with asking the question, why are you interested in this program?
Hello again. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for asking this question. Each educational experience is different for me. I can say that educational experience that I'm going to gain in this program would be extraordinary in every way. This program pushed me to levels I wasn't sure I could attain. Ultimately, it made me realize that I have the ability to succeed in upcoming academic level. The knowledge that I will gain by the applying and completing this program, I believe it will enable to pursue my improvement to the professional level. So I want to try and see how can I succeed in this upcoming program.
Great, thanks, Nilufar. And can I ask, what field are you applying for? What will you study when you go to a university in the United States?
Can I have the question again?
Sure, I'm just asking, when you go to the United States at a university, what will you be studying? What department, what faculty?
Oh, all right. I'll be studying linguistics at Faculty of Foreign Languages and at University of Washington State University.
Excellent. Great. Okay, I think Amy has the next question.
Yes, hi, Nilufar. You mentioned that this program will help you achieve your future professional goals. Could you talk a little bit about your future professional goals and where you'd like to see yourself career-wise in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, sure. Actually, it's in me to work to support my community. I've been volunteering in different public and international organizations such as OIC Field Office in Bokhtar City, American Space Bokhtar, and others, which helped me to become an active citizen and get the desire to make the change around me. Once I come back from the United States, I'm going to continue what I am doing right now, but with more comprehensive knowledge and with the industry of skills. If I want to make the change in people's life, so I need to start from myself. My life goal, it is also considered as a professional goal. So I decided to divide my goals into two terms, such as short-term goal and long-term goal. My life goal is to found and run a successful NGO dedicated to promoting and advancing the education of the children living in rural areas.
Great, thank you so much. And then I've got one more question for you, Nilufar. Can you talk a little bit about what is the unique thing that you're going to bring to this program, this exchange program, that nobody else from Tajikistan will bring? What do you have that nobody else does?
I am really sorry because I couldn't hear your question again. The last part of the question.
Sure, no problem. So what I asked was, what unique ideas or unique perspective do you bring to this exchange program that nobody else does? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got the question. The one thing that would be unique about me is the experience that I have and the knowledge that I have. Once I got accepted to the program, I will share the knowledge that I gained in Tajikistan and in America. I know that the experience will different from each other. That's why I'm going to share that knowledge that I have with other US students, or no matter other international students.
Great, thank you so much. And then the last thing I want to know is, do you have any questions for us about this exchange program? Any questions you'd like to ask us?
I don't have any question, but I want to talk a bit about where I would love to have my internship after the program.
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah, I would love to have my internship in ICLS. ICLS is an International Center for Language Studies. It's a women-owned independent language school based in Washington, D.C. Having my internship over there will give me an opportunity to integrate my classroom knowledge, theory, with practical application and skills developed in professional or community settings.
Great, that sounds wonderful. So thank you so much for coming in and interviewing for our fake program, Nilufar. We'll call you in a couple weeks when we decide who gets to go. No, I'm just kidding. We're actually we'll talk right now. I wish we had a program for you because it sounds like you've got some great plans. Paily, do you want to start and give just a couple minutes of feedback to Nilufar?
Sure, thanks, Alex. Nilufar, great job. This is a challenging exercise because you were definitely put on the spot and with lots of people watching, so you did great. In regards to the first question, and this is kind of a theme throughout, you started off with some really good kind of ideas that at the end of the question, I wanted to hear more. So you talked a little bit, like I asked the question about why are you interested in the program? I could have asked, like, what do you expect to get out of it? But like you started talking about your academic goals, that you wanted to improve your professionalism, but like I wanted to hear a little bit more about that. Like you kind of left me wanting more, and that was kind of a theme with the second question, Amy's question. You started talking about your short-term goals, your long-term goals, your interest in starting an NGO, and then you stopped, and like you had me hooked. But then I wanted a little bit more. And so really like take these opportunities to, show, showcase yourself. Like, as Amy mentioned earlier in the beginning of the talk, like that was your chance to kind of like bring us home, and you had us. And then it just kind of, like I wanted to ask more questions. So you had really good starts to it, and I would just like think about building it out a little bit more. I'll pause there to hand it off to Alex or Amy.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Paily said. I thought the strongest answer was when you talked about your short and long-term goals. I like that you talked about what you were already doing in Tajikistan. It kind of showed that this program isn't just a one-off thing, but it's a part of a path towards having your own NGO focus on issues that you already are working on and care deeply about. The one thing I meant, Paily, I was totally taken by that. Again, like Paily said, building that out a little more, providing a little bit more information would have been great. The one question I feel like we didn't quite get an answer to was what is unique about you? You talked about how, you're from Tajikistan, you'll bring those experiences to the US, but I think I wanted to hear a little bit more about maybe your creativity, your ability to bring different groups of people together, your problem-solving skills, something that's a little more inherent and personal to you, more than just I'm from Tajikistan. I'll be going to the U.S. and can share my experiences there, because it's entirely possible that everybody applying from the program is from Tajikistan, and so with an answer like that, it's not really unique to you. It's true about all the other applicants too. So that's the one area that I would say for improvement. But again, I thought your answer about what you do afterwards was fantastic and definitely very very compelling.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with both Amy and Paily on exactly what they said. So I want to talk, Nilufar, about something I thought you did really well. You had such a good sense of what you wanted to do with yourself. So first of all, you knew exactly what university you were applying for. You knew exactly what internship you were applying for, and you knew exactly what you were going to do when you came back to Tajikistan. And what that told us was that you've really thought about this. This is a person with a plan. And the surprising thing is a lot of people don't have those kind of plans before they come into an interview, is they really haven't thought about those questions, is what am I trying to do? And Nilufar, you did a great job with that. And like Paily said, that hooked us right away. We were interested. The thing that I want to talk about kind of goes with what Amy was saying. It's be really, really specific and give examples whenever you can. Because anybody that's applying for a program, when we ask them to describe themselves, I think they're all going to say, I'm smart, I'm confident, I'm ambitious, I'm a nice person, right? You can imagine that every single person out there is going to say those things. And if we hear that 50 times, how do we tell the difference between people who are applying for things? So you need to come up with examples that are really unique. And, again, examples that you did a great job when you're talking about, here's what I want to do when I come back to Tajikistan. I'm going to start an NGO. And you knew exactly what you wanted that NGO for. So anytime you answer a question, if you can have examples that are that clear that in my head, I can picture you doing it. And the same thing when you talk about what makes me unique. So always think about really specific things. I think that's the end of my feedback. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add before we move on?
I guess one other thing I'd add, we had asked if you had any questions for the interviewers. I think Paily is going to talk about exactly how you deal with this. It is really important to have one or two questions for the interviewers, just to show that you've done your research and that you're really engaged in what the program is. But Paily's going to talk about that separately, but just flagging that.
Yeah, that's really important. And so first of all, I just want to say thank you, Nilufar. Thanks for coming on. I know this probably is a little bit intimidating or scary, and you didn't look intimidated or scared at all. So, great job. Great job. That's really fantastic. So I want to talk about a couple things Thanks, Nilufar. One more look for everybody.
Thank you
to think
very
about.
much.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you on. So I'm going to talk about something now. I'd like to talk about just a couple common mistakes that I see in interviews, some things that actually we've already talked about it a little bit, but it's probably good to hear again. So one common mistake that people often do in interviews is they talk too much, especially when it's an interview like this over the computer or over the phone, where I can't look across the table at Amy and see that she's falling asleep, right? Now I know she's bored and I should stop talking. Over the computer, we have no idea. So like Paily said, probably if you're talking for over 2 minutes, it's probably too long. And you can practice this. I know everybody has a phone or a clock or something that you can time yourself. Time your answers out and practice your answers so you know they're not too long. When you're doing this, think about, what does the interviewer already know? What don't you have to tell them? For example, I get lots of people that tell me, I'm from Tajikistan. It's a country that's very mountainous. And I'm sitting here thinking, I know, I live here. I go to the mountains every week. So think about who your interviewer is and what they already know. And you don't have to tell them things that they know. Tell them what they don't know. So that's talking too long. Another common mistake, the complete opposite. Not talking enough, being too short, and not giving us enough detail to really answer the question. So the first thing to think about for that is make sure you listen to what the question is and actually answer it. If we ask you to talk about your plans in 5 to 10 years, talk about your plans in 5 to 10 years, right? If we ask you, why are you a good fit for this job? Tell us, why are you a good fit for this job? And the way I like to do that is I like to organize. I like to write out an outline of the things that I'm going to talk about. Because if you have an interview, you can probably guess some of the questions that you're going to be asked. And I think it's a good idea to write out at least an outline. And I like to organize everything in groups of 3. So you can actually see, here's my outline that what I'm doing right now, point 1, point 2, point 3. So I've already got everything that I'm going to talk about. And make sure the points are something people can remember. So number 1, don't talk too long. Number 2, don't talk too short. And here's my third point, make sure that you do your homework for interviews. So if you're applying for a job or if you're applying for an exchange program, get on the internet and find out everything you possibly can about that program. Ask your friends who have done it. Any information you can, you want to know about this program. And then try to show us in the interview that you've done that kind of homework and you've done your research. So if I'm talking to Amy again, I might ask Amy some questions about North Carolina, because I know she's lived in North Carolina. And Amy's going to know, oh, he actually knows a little bit about me. That helps show a company or an exchange program that you're serious, that you really care about this. So those are 3 really common mistakes to avoid. Don't talk too much, don't talk too little. Make sure to do your homework. Okay, and now we're going to jump over to Paily again. Paily is going to talk about asking questions.
So thanks, Alex, you teed me up very well because I'm going to build off of some of your comments that you just gave. So let's just say asking questions as a applicant in a program is critical, especially within whenever you're talking to American interviewers. If you don't ask a question, that raises a red flag. That's just like, wow, this person is not interested. That the message at least received is this person's not interested in this program. This person's not interested in what we're doing here. And so you must ask questions. And what I'd recommend is that you prepare 2 to 3 questions ahead of time that you have kind of ready to go. And then sure, as the interview goes on, there may be some other questions that come up, and then those are the questions that you actually ask, but you have to prepare 2 to 3 questions. And you need to, like when the interviewer asks, do you have any questions? You have to ask questions, like 1 or 2 at least. With that, building off of what Alex said, you need to do your research. You should not ask a question about something that like you should have read about already. Like if it's in the materials ahead of time, if it's on a website, if you can research it ahead of time, that's not the question you should be asking. You should be asking a thoughtful question that is something that you want to know the answer to, because that gives you additional information. And also you're sending a message back to the interviewer that says, I'm interested in this. I've done my research. I'm going to ask a very specific question about the research I've done that applies to this program. And that's going to show additional interest in on your behalf to the interviewer. So just I cannot reiterate that again, that you need to ask a question, prepare 2 to 3, and then as the interview goes on, you may have to like adjust those questions to something that comes up in the interview, and that shows engagement and interest in the process. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Paily. I'm glad you said all those things because those are all really useful. So now what we're going to do is we are fortunate enough to have Alisher on, and Alisher is going to give us another mock interview. And of course, he's lucky because we just gave him some things to do and some things not to do. So I'm sure Alisher has been quickly thinking about some questions to ask. Alisher, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Great, thank you so much. So yeah, welcome to our interview. Welcome to our interview process, and we're really happy to talk to you about this.
Okay, thank you.
So I think you've already heard how this goes, so we're just going to jump into an interview. I think Paily has the first question again.
Okay, sure.
Hi, Alisher. Thanks for joining us and your interest in this program. I just wanted to start off. Can you tell us why you're interested in this program and what you expect to get out of it?
Okay. Thank you very much. So the reasons why I'm interested in this program is the wide range of possibilities that this program provides for the students, for the exchange students to try and to try in the US. It's first of all, it's an internship. It's like the summer internship, which gives you the opportunity to get the real life example, to learn from the real life examples, to work in the companies, to learn from them. And this program and also the wide range of knowledge and knowledge, for example, to learn something new, especially in my sphere. And another reason is that my interest in this program, as far as the business education, as far as this is my major, business education is really expensive, and this this exchange program provides a very good opportunity to get a full scholarship to study for 1 year in the US university, and to take to learn from the best, like the best teachers from the best universities in the world, and to acquire those knowledges and experiences, and to by getting back home to implement them in my home country.
Great, thank you so much. Amy's got the next question.
Okay, Alisher, could you tell us a little bit more about your long-term and short-term career goals and how this program is going to help you achieve those professional goals?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, from my childhood, I had an interest in economy. From that time, I decided to take my major, especially in business. And from this subject, so my short-term and long-term goals are like this. So for the beginning, after completing the education, after completing this exchange program, I would like to get back home and to start to work in a fintech company. And then after 5 years from now, I want to create my own business, which is e-commerce, like to create a platform for online trading, like the Amazon, the example of which, and to, for example, to make the life of the people in my home country more easier to access to the goods, and for example the different type of goods within a short period of time to take, and with the delivery and other stuff. And this program would enable me to learn how to create, to learn how to build, to learn how to for example manage the financing, for example dividing human responsibilities, like human resources, and to manage all these like things. this exchange program would enable me to learn from all of it and to implement it in my home country by getting back home.
Great, thank you so much, Alisher. So I've got the last question for you, and it is, what unique experiences or unique perspectives do you bring to this program that nobody else does?
Okay, so something unique, I already have an experience of working in a company, fintech company, and I work here as as administrative assistant. So our main duty is to create a strategy to bring something new into a company's organization, and to, for example, automate all the processes and to make them easier and more accessible to our clients, and for the works to make the job of the workers more easier as well. So I guess my experience would be a best fit for this scholarship program, and also as far as this is exchange student, I want to represent my home country, Tajikistan, and the US universities, and for example, just simply to show the American students, for example, what it's like to be like the Tajik student, and to just simply share my culture with them.
Excellent, thank you. And so then the last thing, Alisher, do you have any questions for us about this exchange program?
Yeah, thank you. I have one question. So is there any possibility after completing this scholarship program, would I have a chance to take my MBA with the support of the US Embassy in the US?
Well, since we're just making up this exchange program right now, I'm going to say absolutely yes.
Yeah, that sounds very good.
That's a great question. Absolutely, and we'll just say right now that we'll send both you and Nilufar on this program.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're doing a great job. Okay, so thank you, Alisher, for again volunteering to be our guest and to be interviewed live in front of everybody watching, and to have people learn from your experiences. Amy, do you want to start with some feedback?
So first off, your question at the end was actually really great. I think it was talking about what potential opportunities that you could have after the program. It really shows that you're thinking about this as, again, a part of a longer journey and not just a one-off program. One thing that I think could have helped you a little bit is you had a lot of interesting ideas. You know, you're interested in economics, you work in fintech, you're interested in starting an e-commerce company. But one thing that was a little hard for me was to kind of connect the dots on that. You know, what exactly made you interested in economics in childhood? Maybe your parents owned a grocery store, owned a convenience store, and that made you think about e-commerce or a clothing store or something like that. I just needed a little bit more connective tissue between those ideas. And I think that could be filled in, again, with a little more detail, a little more specifics about what in your childhood maybe made you interested in economics, what about your current position has made you interested in e-commerce. Again, like there's some good ideas there, but I just needed a little more, some more details and some more connective tissue to really latch onto that and really see where you were going. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Great, thanks. Paily, you want to give some feedback to Alisher?
Sure, great job, Alisher. I want to agree with what Amy said. Just like I thought you had really good starts to the answers, and just having a little bit more detail built out, just to kind of fill out the story, because you started showing us a little bit about what's unique about you, what you would bring to the table, what you would focus on in the program. Just having that little bit of detail would have really kind of made it really powerful. And so, yeah, I'll hand it off back to you, Alex.
Yeah, I guess I'm going last again, which means I again get to say I agree with both of my colleagues. Good job. I'll just add a couple things to that. So yeah, the personal story is great. As soon as you started telling that, I'm thinking, okay, I know who Alisher is and what he wants to do, and that's a great way of trying to connect with us. I'm going to give you one piece of really important feedback that I think most people interviewing need to do a better job of, You've got these plans for the future, and you know you want to go and study in the United States. The really important thing to do that almost nobody does is figure out a way to show us why going to the United States is going to help you achieve those goals for the future, and to be as specific as you possibly can. So if you can say, you know, I want to work in finance, and I happen to know that the University of Michigan, which is where I went to school, it's the best one, has a great finance department, and they specialize in macroeconomics. And there's a professor there that is the leading specialist in the United States at Central Asian macroeconomics, and I want to study with this professor. And if you tell us that, all of a sudden we understand, I know exactly why Alisher wants to study on this exchange program. And it shows that you've done your research, and it shows that you're figuring out how to connect what you're going to learn on this program to what your goals are in life. Lots of times we have people apply for an exchange program, and I ask, why do you want to go to the United States? And they don't really know. So you always want to know, why do you want to go on an exchange program? Why do you want to apply for this company? Why do you want to apply for this internship? Very specifically. But you know, that's my piece of feedback. Otherwise, really great job. I just want to thank both of our guests for coming on. Thank you, Nilufar. Thank you, Alisher. Yeah, so wonderful to hear you guys speak with us. And of course, both of our guests, for everybody watching, have already been exchange program participants on the Global UGrad program. So we're cheating a little bit. They're experienced at this, and they've clearly passed an interview before. But that's why we brought them on. So thank you so much for you guys being here.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Absolutely, you're welcome. We're going to do a couple more things with everybody, and let me just remind anybody watching on Facebook, if you have any questions, please put them into Facebook now, and we'll answer them at the end. I see one question on there, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. Okay, so I think Amy's got the next topic for a couple minutes.
Okay. So the next topic is just overall preparing for the interview, I believe, which we've just kind of been talking about the entire time. We highlighted having specific examples to be able to share in the interview, knowing exactly why you want to be a part of the program, doing your research in advance about the program, so that you can answer, so that you can really focus on what skills they're going to be looking for, talking to potential alumni of the program. I mean, these are all a part of preparing for the interview. Also, to all of you watching now, you are also doing an important part of preparing for an interview, which is doing mock interviews, going through potential questions, maybe with a teacher, professor, family member, or friend, so that you can get feedback from them on what was good about your answer or what you need to improve. It's also important too, like when you prepare, Alex mentioned that he has 3 points prepared for answering a question, and he writes down an outline for himself. For me, I actually tend to walk around and time myself and just kind of talk out exactly what I'm going to say over and over until it feels more natural and it feels second nature to me. Another thing too to prepare is, it sounds perhaps a little silly, but just working on making sure that you feel really confident when you go into the interview. When you're selling yourself, you should absolutely believe that you are the best product, and that you should make every effort to be able to walk away from the interview and say, I told them absolutely everything they needed to hear, and whether or not I get it, I know that I definitely gave them all the information they needed to make the right decision about me. We also mentioned about asking questions of the interviewers. I think this is where it's really important to, in the back of your mind, have some stock questions that you can ask. Asking about opportunities after the program is an excellent question. Asking about placement opportunities or experiences that other participants have had is also a really good stock question. I know for me, when I do interviews towards the end, you tend to be exhausted. you're a little maybe nervous or just tired from doing an interview. So I think it's really important to go into the interview prepared with some questions already instead of having to think of them on the spot. Because especially at the end of the interview, I know I'm not usually as creative as I am at the beginning of the interview. I think one other thing that I would mention, and this might actually be more of an intangible, is for me when I go into interviews to make sure that I don't get nervous or too obsessed with doing this interview right. I always think in the back of my mind, oh, after I do this interview, I'm going to go to dinner with a friend. Or after I do this interview, I'm going to start watching that TV show I'm really excited about. And for me, it just makes it so that day, I'm not just doing the interview, I have other things going on. And it takes a little bit of the pressure off. And that's and when you go into an interview, you want to feel prepared, confident, maybe you feel a little nervous, but you don't want that to show, and you want to feel relaxed, because when you're relaxed and confident, that's when you're going to be able to give the best answers and to really show why you deserve the opportunity. Thanks.
That's a great point, and it sets up exactly what I want to talk about, which is essentially intangible, a couple extra things. These are little things that are not going to win you a job, probably, but they might lose you a job. Just little things to think about as you're preparing for an interview. So a couple of them are, of course, be careful how you dress for an interview. And of course, almost everybody in Tajikistan that interviews for us always does a good job, and they look nice. Make sure, you probably dress up a little bit more than you think you need to for an interview. The second thing, Amy started talking about this, was just be confident and show that you're confident. And one of the ways you can do that is with body language. And I'm trying to do that, model that now for you. I'm sitting up straighter than I normally would instead of slouching back. I'm trying to smile. And I will even smile when I'm just talking on the phone to people, because I think you can actually tell in somebody's voice when they're smiling and when they're not. So I try to be enthusiastic and excited, and so I do that by smiling. And the third thing I'm doing is, of course, making eye contact, which is very strange in this age of communicating over Zoom and over Facebook and over the internet. But at the very least, I can make eye contact with the camera, even if I can't see anybody on the other side. Now, speaking of interviews over Zoom, since that's pretty much most of what we do these days, unfortunately, just a couple things to think about. So make sure you check your connection really carefully, maybe more than once. Especially, we all know that, that the internet here can sometimes not work or sometimes not be great anywhere you are. So make sure you check your connection maybe the day before, just to make sure it works. Check that the sound works. Check that the video works. Check that we can hear you. Check that you can connect. Things like that are really, again, it's probably not going to win or lose an interview, but it's going to make a difference. Check what you've got going on in the background behind you when you're on video. If you're doing an interview and behind you we can see a bunch of construction machines going back and forth, or animals or something, people are going to be distracted by that. So, find a nice background, especially in my house. Because I do a lot of Zoom calls, I've actually figured out where in my house is the lighting good. Because if I turn the camera the other way, the lighting's really bad and it's hard to see. So this way the lighting's actually good. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, what I call dumb stuff, things that you can very easily fix if you just think about them. Things like making sure your phone is off so it doesn't ring during the interview. Making sure if you have a dog or a cat, making sure they're in a different room with the door locked or the door closed at least. Making sure there's nobody else in the room. Believe it or not, I've actually done interviews where there's other people walking back and forth in the background. And again, that's distracting. So just make sure you've cleared off nice quiet space, a nice quiet time. Maybe you need to put a sign on the door that says, I'm in an interview. Don't bother me right now. That's okay. People do that all the time. Just some things to think about when we are when we're doing all of these internet things. All right, that's all for my little speech. If you have any other questions, this is your last opportunity. So please put questions into Facebook if you have any. We have a really good question from Abdul Wahid that I'd like to, I'll probably either ask Amy or Paily. How do you answer the question, why are you a good fit for this job? It's a question that gets asked a lot. You want to start with this one?
Sure. I think the question, why are you a good fit for this job? I think this is where the research that you've done about the company or about the program is really important. So in this question, they're really looking for you to have knowledge about what you're going to be asked to do and then what the overall company does. And I think that, for example, say you're applying for an internship at an environmental preservation organization. Why are you going to be a good fit? So you've looked at the different programming that they do, and the number one thing they do is like beach trash cleanups. And you say, well, I actually have organized 3 of those in my home country, and I really enjoy them. I helped create a media campaign around them, and I think my previous experience doing this is going to be a really good fit. But really, this question about why are you a good fit, it's really looking for how much research you've done about the company. How much do you know about the program you're applying to? So that's why it's really important. Spend some time on their website, talk to alumni. But this question, the good fit question, is definitely looking for your knowledge about what the company does and why you would be an asset to the company.
Paily, anything you want to jump in and add to that?
No, I think that was great. Yeah, nothing to add.
Yeah, I don't have anything either. I think you covered it all perfectly. Well, I guess at this point, since we don't have any other questions, I guess I'll ask Paily, do you have any last words, last recommendations for anybody before we sign off?
No, I think like with all the preparation, like interviewing something that we don't always do, right? Like it's very different from the other things that we learn about and it just takes practice. But also, most importantly, you want to be yourself, right? So you want to prepare, but you want to be yourself. You want to let you shine through.
Amy, same question. Any last words for anybody?
I guess, Paily really hit on it, this idea that making sure that you shine through. Again, one thing that I do before interviews that helps a lot, because I've been in a situation where there's a group interview and watched people who were way more qualified than me get super nervous and just tank the interview. And one thing that I think is really important is if it's something that on some level, if it's something that you really want, before you go into that interview, you have to be able to say to yourself, no matter if I get it or not, I just want to make sure that I present myself well in the interview and then let the decision, fall where it may. Again, I think that takes a little bit of the pressure off, because I have seen some people who get really wrapped up. If I don't get this one thing, it's going to be the end of the world. The fact of the matter is not. There's always something else or another program that you can do, even if you really want the program. So just finding ways to make sure that you're relaxed when you go into the interview, that you're confident, and maybe it sounds cheesy, but your worth is not dependent on whether or not you get the grant program or whether or not you get the job. And just remember that so that you can be calm and confident when you go into your interviews.
And I'll just say, as a reminder, interviews are something that you can practice for. Practice, 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 practice. Figure out what you think the questions might be and answer them over and over again. I think Amy said that she likes to walk around answering questions. I do the same thing. I walk around my apartment, I walk around the city, I go for a hike and walk around the mountains and practice my interview. And you don't have to practice with just yourself. Find a friend. It can be a friend or a family member or a college professor, or go to our American Spaces, little plug for the American Spaces. And you can certainly find a volunteer or an English teaching assistant or somebody that will help you practice for their interview and ask questions and maybe give you a little bit of feedback. I think confidence comes with knowing that you're prepared. And the more you feel like you've done your homework and you've practiced and you're ready, you will feel confident and you won't feel nervous. I know when I have to go into a series of interviews and do maybe 3 or 4 or 5 interviews, I'm always nervous for the first one. And by the last one, I'm never nervous. It's just, oh, I've done this a whole bunch of times. So make sure if you're interviewing for the Fulbright program, you only get one interview. So make sure you've practiced so that interview isn't the first time that you're actually answering those questions, and you'll be way more confident. Well, that's about all of the time we have, and I think all of the advice that we've got for everybody. I hope this has been helpful for all of you. I know that we're going to hear interviews all throughout the year for exchange programs and grants and possibly people applying for jobs. And I hope we see some of the people here taking this advice. So I'd really like to thank, of course, Nilufar and Alisher for, again, being willing to step forward and present for everybody watching. Thank you so much. You guys did great jobs.
I would like also to thank you all for giving an opportunity to practice our interviewing skills in an environment similar to actual interview. And I'd like also to thank for giving an opportunity to learn and to become familiar with an interview questions and interview etiquette, as Alex explained, and how to reduce stress and how not to get nervous before the interview, as Amy explained, and the necessity of asking questions at the end of the interview, as Paily explained. So it was a great opportunity to learn new things about the interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nilufar. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I just wanted to join to the words of Nilufar said. Yeah, thank you very much for giving the chance to try ourselves once again, to apply for another exchange programs and to become competitive and confident in our interviews in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And of course, let me thank my wonderful colleagues, Amy and Paily, for giving up time during what I know is very busy days to speak with everybody today. So thanks for coming in, both of you. And of course, thanks to American Space Dushanbe and our coordinators for setting up this session and hosting it and running the technical support for it. So thank you to them. And thanks for everybody listening. Again, please feel free to contact your American Spaces if you need any further help with interviewing. And we hope to see all of you for lots of exchange programs, lots of grant opportunities in the future. Everybody have a great day, and we'll hear from you soon.
Bye.